That was funny. Okay. We are expecting Lorena and Rolando. 2 days y one month are coming.
Oh, did you sign it? Oh, okay.
Okay, so we got this. Oh my God. I was just gonna remind you to please make sure that Elizabeth does the little intro before the video. Yeah. Yes, just the one.
Is it too much of a burden to ask you to print my agendas? on the item.
To print?
Yeah, in other words, whatever it is.
Oh, like the attachments and
The
everything?
attachments and everything.
Okay, I don't see a reason why not. All this stuff, like,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
for every meeting?
For every meeting. And it's just for me.
Sure.
It's just like I'm a visual learner. And
I
sometimes
got it. The iPad is not doing it for you? Okay, no problem.
Recording in progress.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board. We are residents of Coral Gables and are charged with the preservation and protection of historic or architecturally worthy buildings, structures, sites, neighborhoods, and artifacts, which impart a distinct historical heritage of the city. The board is comprised of 9 members, 7 of whom are appointed by the commission, 1 by the city manager, and the 9th is selected by the board and confirmed by the commission. 5 members of the board constitute a quorum, and 5 affirmative votes are necessary for the adoption of any motion. Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to the City of Coral Gables Ordinance Number 2006-11 must register with the city clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities or presentations before city staff, boards, committees, and/or the city commission. A copy of the ordinance is available in the office of the city clerk. Failure to register and provide proof of registration shall prohibit your ability to present to the Historic Preservation Board on applications under consideration this afternoon. Lobbyist is defined as an individual, corporation, partnership, or other legal entity employed or retained, whether paid or not, by a principal who seeks to encourage the approval, disapproval, adoption, repeal, passage, defeat, or modifications of any ordinance, resolution, action, or decision of any city commissioner, any action, decision, recommendation of the city manager, any board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial, advisory board, trust, authority, or council, or any action, decision, or recommendation of city personnel during the time period of the entire decision-making process on the action, decision, or recommendation which foreseeably will be heard or reviewed by the city commission or a city board or committee, including but not limited to quasi-judicial, advisory board, trust, authority, or council. Presentations made to this board are subject to the city's false claims ordinance, chapter 39 of the City of Coral Gables City Code. I now officially call the City of Coral Gables Historic Preservation Board meeting of September 18th, 2024 to order. The time is 4:11 p.m. Present today are, to my left, Ms. Rolando, Mr. Silva, Mr. Maxwell, and to my right, Ms. Spain, Ms. Alvarez, Mr. Baños, and myself, Cesar Garcia Pons. Approval of the minutes. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting held on August 21st, 2024. Are there any changes or corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Second. Motion by Mr. Baños, second by Mr. Maxwell. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None opposed?
I wasn't present, so I don't know if I could vote.
You can.
You can, yes.
Oh, okay, yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Oh, yeah, 7-0. Please be advised that this board is a quasi-judicial board and the items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature, which requires board members to disclose all ex parte communications. An ex parte communication is defined as any contact, communication, conversation, correspondence, memorandum, or other written or verbal communication that takes place outside a public hearing between a member of the public and a member of the quasi-judicial board regarding matters to be heard by the quasi-judicial board. If anyone has made any contact with a board member when the issue comes before the board, the member must state on the record the existence of the ex parte communication, the party who originated the communication, and whether the communication will affect the board member's ability to impartially consider the evidence to be presented regarding the matter. Does anybody wish to discuss any ex parte communications at this time. Deferrals, Madam Preservation Officer, are there any deferrals for today's meeting?
Yes, good afternoon. We do have one deferral for case file LHD 2024-009. The consideration of the local historic designation of the property at 1414 Galliano will be deferred to the October 16th, 2024 Historic Preservation Board meeting.
October 16th, thank you. The item is deferred.
Which, 56?
Second, historic preservation. Swearing in. If any persons in the audience will be testifying today, please rise to be sworn in. If you're on Zoom, you must be on camera. Is there anyone on Zoom?
Yes.
You wish to be sworn in?
Yes.
You need to be on camera. There you go. Can you speak into the mic?
Absolutely.
Will you raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's get on the first item. Local historic designations, case file LHD 2024-003. Consideration of the local historic designation of the property at 1116 Alberga Street, legally described as Lot 19, Block 2, Coral Gables, Granada Section, amended plat according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 13, at page 51 of the public records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. Ms. Gwynn, do you have something for the record?
I do. Good afternoon, everyone. Elizabeth Guin, Historic Preservation Coordinator. The following presentation is a brief summary of the historic designation report prepared by staff. Can you please play the PowerPoint? The property at 1116 Alberca Street is before you for
Can you raise the volume, please?
as a local historic landmark. It is the result of a historic significance determination application filed by the owner. As per Article 8, Section 8-103 of the Coral Gables Zoning Code, criteria for designation of local historic landmarks, a local historic landmark must have significant character, interest, or value as part of the historical, cultural, archaeological, aesthetic, or architectural heritage of the city, state, or nation. For designation, a property must meet one of the criteria outlined in the code. 1116 Alberca Street is eligible as a local historic landmark based on 3 significance criteria. Historical cultural significance, criteria 4, exemplifies the historical, cultural, political, economic, or social trends of the community. Architectural significance, criteria 1, portrays the environment and era of history characterized by one or more distinctive architectural style. And criteria 2, embodies those distinguishing characteristics of an architectural style or period or method of construction. The single-family residence is located on a block west of Granada Boulevard on an interior 50 by 97-foot lot between Mariana Avenue and Venetia Terrace in Granada Place. George Merrick founded Coral Gables in the early 1920s based on his vision for a Mediterranean-inspired city. The city's developmental history is divided into 3 major historical periods. During the initial developmental period, architectural design specifically combined elements commonly used in the Spanish, Moorish, and Italian architecture, and has come to be known as the Mediterranean Revival style. During the 1920s, structures and amenities were built almost exclusively in this style. The home at 1116 Alberca Street occurred during this initial phase and is indicative of the type of architecture that was the founding premise of Coral Gables. It exemplifies the Mediterranean ideals and climate adaptations espoused by Coral Gables founder George Merrick and his design team. Coral Gables was originally conceived as a suburb of Miami and attracted investors from across the nation during the South Florida real estate boom of the 1920s. Merrick drew from Garden City and City Beautiful movements of the 19th and early 20th century to create his vision for a fully conceived Mediterranean-inspired city, which is now considered to be one of the first modern planned communities in the United States. Nationally acclaimed landscape architect Frank Button drew the first comprehensive maps of Coral Gables in 1921 and 22, one of which is on the left of this slide. The initial construction of Coral Gables was concentrated in sections A through E, which were located near Merrick's plantation. Throughout 1922 and 1923, Merrick continued to amass additional land holdings. He was particularly interested in attaining the land north to the Tamiami Trail in the area outlined in blue on these maps. As you can see on the map on the left, in 1922, he only held the lots on either side of Granada Boulevard. Over the next year, he acquired large portions of land in this area and renamed it the Granada section. In November 1923, Merrick launched the Granada section, publishing numerous ads and articles stating his intention for the area, like the one illustrated here. In accordance with the Garden City precepts that guided Merrick's development of Coral Gables, the new Granada section was intentionally platted with smaller lots on some streets for modest homes. Granada Place, seen here outlined in orange, was one of these sections. Merrick's plan for the smaller homes was that they were to be built with the same high-quality construction and Mediterranean Revival-style features as other structures that shaped the new city in the early 1920s. Merrick platted the first section of Granada Place in January 1925. In the early 1920s, Merrick's team handled most of the building in Coral Gables. By the mid-1920s, the community's rapid expansion outpaced the capacity of Merrick's team, and they began recruiting leading architects, builders, and investors from across the country. Permit documents indicate that Indiana-based teams were predominantly responsible for the early development of Granada Place. The building of homes, both large and modest, throughout the Granada section area happened at a rapid pace during the mid-1920s. The Granada Place section followed this trend with construction of these 17 homes on this small plat over a few months. Due to the 1926 hurricane and the economy, there was no further building in this area for almost 2 decades. The post-war homes that followed national trends and were a distinct departure from the ornamented and picturesque Mediterranean Revival style that had dominated the city's landscape in the 1920s. 1116 Alberca Street retains its historic integrity and stands amongst these newer homes as a testament to Merrick's vision for a Mediterranean-inspired planned community. What has become known as the Coral Gables Cottage started with Merrick's commissions in the Granada section to design finely detailed Mediterranean Revival-style homes on these smaller lots to demonstrate that the moderately priced homes in Coral Gables would have the same quality of construction and aesthetic as the larger homes. 1116 Alberca Street is an example of one of these moderately priced homes. The one-story, single-family residence at 1116 Alberca Street is designed in the Mediterranean Revival style. Some of its character-defining features include the textured stucco finish, a combination of roof types with pitched gable roof clad in barrel tile, and the flat roof parapets and barrel tile copings. There is a front projecting and recessed bays of varying heights. Across the facade is a series of arched openings. It also has a visually dominant chimney, and round vents are used as decorative accents on all facades. There is a porte-cochere, and the windows, originally casements, are recessed with projecting sills. The residence at 1116 Alberca Street has had no additions. It retains its original massing and style. Primary alterations involve enclosing the front and rear screened porches for living space, and the change of window and door types. The original windows were casements. The current windows are fixed awning and casement in type. The awning windows were installed in 1982, and most of the fixed and casement windows in 2019. The front facade has 3 distinct protruding receding bays. The the front entry, the original front porch, and the porte cochere. Each has a separate roof of varying heights. All of the openings on these bays are arched. The front entry bay, with its side-facing gable roof, is at the northeast portion of the home. Rising through the gable apex of the bay's north facade is a partially protruding flared chimney. A series of round vents wrap around its top, providing a decorative accent to this character-defining feature. The front entry is a large semicircular archway centered on the east facade of the bay. The original door was an arched double door that filled the opening. The current configuration of a central single door with side and fan lights was installed in 2019. The front entry is flanked by single arched windows. The same window configuration also flanks the chimney on the north facade and is on the protruding portion of the west facade. Flat roof center bay was originally a large screened porch. The majority of the home's exterior alterations involved this porch, and they occurred over several campaigns. As seen on the left, the screen porch was originally designed with full-height arched opening supported by slender columns. In 1982, with a permit for awning windows, it was enclosed for living space. The permit is for 5 windows, suggesting that at this time, or by this time, the opening on the north facade, seen in the photo in the upper right, was enclosed. A permit for hurricane shutters records the openings were still full length in 2000. It appears that the windows were reduced in size and the columns were removed when the current windows were installed in 2019. All protruding sills are still extant, so the size of the original openings is easily discerned. Additionally, a recent interior view from Realtor.com shows that the original columns were retained inside, and these could be used as templates to reinstate the exterior columns at a future date. The southern bay of the front facade is the porte cochere. It has a flat roof with barrel tile copings on the parapets. The east, west, and south openings are large semicircular arches. As seen here, the porte cochere and the south side facade remain unaltered. The only substantial changes to the north side and rear facades are the enclosing of the screened back porch to extend the kitchen and moving the back door from the north to the rear facade. This change occurred prior to 1991. In conclusion, the single-family residence at 1116 Alberca Street was permitted in November 1925. In accordance with Garden City precepts that guided Merrick's development of Coral Gables, the New Granada section was intentionally platted with smaller lots in some areas for modest homes that were to be built with the same high-quality construction and Mediterranean Bible-style features as other structures that shaped the new city in the early 1920s. They were built adjacent to and in harmony with other homes in Coral Gables. These homes are recognized as an important feature in the initial planning of Coral Gables. While the home at 1116 Alberca Street has had some alterations over the past century, it still retains its historic integrity as a 1920s Mediterranean Revival-style moderate home in keeping with Merrick's vision. Hence, the property at 1116 Alberca Street significantly contributes to the historic fabric of the city of Coral Gables and is part of a collection of quality buildings that serve as a visible reminder of the history and the cultural heritage of the city. Staff recommends approval of the local historic designation of the property at 1116 Alberca Street based on its historical, cultural, and architectural significance.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Is the applicant or owner here wish to speak? You don't have to. Would you like to? Okay. Let's open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor or opposition to this case? Is anybody on Zoom? Ms. Pernas, you sent some information today about the letters of public comment. Do you have the names of those folks? Can you read those into the record, please?
If you give me 2 seconds. We did receive public comment in advance of the meeting, and all of that was sent to you all. Those were by Mr. Brett Gillis, Miss Alice Goldhagen, Mr. and Mrs. Jamie and Zuli Pardo, Miss Carla Carbonell on behalf of the HPACG, and Miss Ellen Dyer.
And they were
All in support.
In support. Thank you. All right, this closes public hearing. Bring it back to the board. Does anybody have any discussion? No discussion? All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
I think we should discuss the integrity of the building, which I believe does qualify. But I think because the alterations are on the front facade, I think it's important that we talk about that. The code is very specific. It says that that structures are of local importance and historically significant if they possess integrity of location, which it does, setting, materials, and workmanship, absolutely, and design. And I believe that even though those arches have been shortened, it still possesses integrity of design. I think that's important to note for the designation.
Mr. Sloan?
My only comment.
Thank you, Ms. May.
I agree as well. I think the massing of the house remains pretty intact. Most of the masonry openings are as originally designed. The screen porch has obviously been altered, but as they pointed out in the report, the sills at the bottom are still there, so you can still read the old openings. And the fact that the columns exist on the interior is great. So the structure is still there, so it's easily reversible. It's the definition of easily reversible, right? If somebody wants to restore that as an open porch, they can fairly easily, and they can use the interior columns as a guide for restoring the exterior. So I think it does merit designation.
Ms. Valero?
I have a question.
I don't think you're on.
Right here. Thank you. In the staff report, there was a reference to the absence of the true barrel tile roof under the current conditions, and noted that that was missing from, and basically the home did not meet the criteria of the Coral Gables cottage without counting the true barrel tile on the roof to be installed. My question for staff is, do we have to condition our approval on that, adding that criteria?
No, the designation today is as a local historic landmark, not as a Coral Gables cottage. Those items are identified in the list as optional to the homeowner to restore as part of the Coral Gables cottage criteria if it's something they want to pursue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perez.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Baños?
Yeah. In addition to that, I think it has been touched by all the board members, but it's important to point out in the report the defining the Mediterranean revival characteristics that the home has. So the recessed windows with projecting sills, the round vents as decorative accents, barrel tiles roof, I'm sorry, my French is horrible. I hope I'm saying this properly. Portico chair with arch opening, the prominent chimney with round vents accents, the series of arches including the arch front entry, the varied heights between projecting and recessed portions of the front facade, and the projecting bay in the front elevation, as well as the gables roof, the barrel tiles, and the flat roof combination with the parapets. So I believe, as has been referenced by all my other colleagues, that it does meet the necessary criteria and that it should be primed for designation.
Thank you, Mr. Baños. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Baños has a motion to approve.
Yes, but let me be a little more specific.
Okay.
So is a motion to approve the local historic designation of the property at 1116 Alberta Street, legally described as Lot 19, Block 2, Section Coral Gables, Granada Place, Section amended plat, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in the Plat Book 13 at page 51 of the public records of Miami-Dade County, Florida, based on historical, cultural, and architectural significance, which are exemplified by three different criteria as provided in Coral Gables Zoning Code Article 8, Section 81-103, specifically the historic cultural significance. Criterion 4 exemplifies the historic, cultural, political, economic, or social trends of the community. B, architectural significance. Criterion 1 portrays environment in an area of historic characterized by one or more distinctive architectural styles. Criteria number 2 embodies those distinguished characteristics of the architectural style or period or method of construction. In addition to that, I would like to incorporate by reference as further support for my motion the staff report itself, the comments that were presented by staff and by the folks that provided public comment, as well as the comments that were presented by my colleagues here on the dais.
Thank you, Mr. Banos. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rolando. Any discussion? Let's call the roll.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Banos?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next item. COA, case file COA SP 2024-025, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 236 Aledo Avenue, a local historic landmark legally described as lots 4 to 7 inclusive, Block 18, Coconut Grove, Section Part 1, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 14 at page 25 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and site work. A variance is being requested from Section 2-101D4BI of the Coral Gables Zoning Code for the minimum required side setback for the construction of the new addition.
Good afternoon, Anna Pernas, Preservation Officer. This property was permitted, could we please have the presentation, the staff presentation? Thank you. This property was permitted in January 26th. The single-family residence at 236 Aledo Avenue has retained its historic integrity and context for nearly a century, and the property was designated a local historic landmark on May 17th, 2024. The scope of work contained in this application includes the demolition of an aluminum screen porch enclosure, an approximately 830 square foot addition to the east side of the existing 2,180 square foot home. The one-story addition consists of a family room, dining room, kitchen, and breakfast room. The addition is primarily under a gabled roof with a higher flat roof portion over the kitchen. There is a full interior remodel, new windows and doors, and site work that includes a new covered terrace with an outdoor kitchen and pool deck and new pool. A variance is also being requested for the side setback. The proposed one-story addition is set back 1 foot 10 from the original front wall of the building and projects to the east approximately 42 feet. The addition slightly steps between the dining and the kitchen, and flat roof is introduced to help mitigate the large mass being added to the front of the building. Staff recognize the applicant's intent of minimizing the impact of the addition of the original structure and maintaining most of the modifications where the screened-in porch once existed. Staff shared concerns with the proposed location of the addition, but understands that the intent was to protect the original two-story projecting bay at the center of the building on the east side. Staff would recommend that the addition be differentiated from the original, including the windowsills and stucco finish. And so it's hard to see here, but there's a little projecting bay here that was identified as part of the one of the character-defining features in the designation. A variance is also being requested of Section 2-101D4B1 of the Coral Gables Zoning Code for the minimum required side setback for the construction of the new addition. The proposed addition is approximately 42 feet long and requires a side setback variance of approximately 4 foot 6 inches. Staff believes the existing 100 by 100 site condition allows for the applicant to reconfigure the addition to meet the zoning setback requirement without having an adverse effect to the historic property, and recommends denial of the variance, and also recommends denial, due to that, recommends denial of the SCOA, and would like the applicant to work to reconfigure the addition to meet the zoning code requirements. And this is a photo of the existing condition with the screened-in porch at the east side.
Thank you, Ms. Bednas. Is the owner applicant?
CGTV, can we have the applicant's presentation, please?
Good afternoon, board. Thank you for having me. My name is Rahal. I'm with Rahal Architects. I'm presenting the client. We're proposing the addition for this lovely home. To give you a little bit of background, my client purchased this property and they were very excited to move into it and do an addition. Through our permitting process, we went in front of the BOA, and with their recommendation, it had not been designated historical. With their recommendation, they requested, or they asked the client for us to move towards historical and designate it as historical. The owner we're more than happy to work with the historical. They do appreciate the property very much so. And to give you a little background, we've been going back and forth with the board for almost 4 or 5 revisions to make sure that everything fits as we think would help with the addition itself and keep the structure itself in the best shape possible without creating any disturbing to the actual property itself or being overwhelming in any way. With that said,
Is that you or CGTV?
Okay.
You can point with that thing.
But it's the slides are twisted.
Oh, that's a problem.
CGTV, is that the presentation or?
There you go. That must
No,
be right.
that's still sideways. I can do it through Zoom. Is that possible? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. For some reason.
CGTV, we're going to have somebody join via Zoom. If we could authorize them once they join to share their screen.
Staff, is Mr. Rahal going to need some assistance with his laptop?
Do you have the Zoom?
I'm opening the Zoom up right now.
Okay.
And
What a hassle.
join meeting.
Join person. If you could put the property address as your name so we can make sure they select the right person.
Well, I'm just going to see if
The meeting ID. Do I need a link for that?
Seems to me if he had it on some kind of a drive, you could just take that up and they'd show it. Maybe they can just plug it in up there.
No.
If this is going to take a few minutes, I'm going to defer the item and go to the next item. Would you like to do that? Huh? I'm sorry, just hold it and go to the next item.
That's fine with me, yes.
Okay, let's do that so you guys can, with calm. All right, we're going to, do we need to do anything? We have half of a presentation.
No, I understand.
We can hear you.
I understand that the board is putting it on the table for the moment while we move on to the next item, and we'll return to it and resume the public hearing then.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to the next item. Case file COASP 2024-024, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 2622 Country Club Prado, a local historic landmark legally described as lots 11 through 13, block 14, Coral Gables Section D according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 25 at page 74 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. A variance is being requested from Section 2-101D4BI of the Coral Gables zoning code for the minimum side setback and the minimum overall side setback for the construction of a new pool.
Okay, so I'm being forced into the current millennium.
You can do it.
Good afternoon.
All right, here's the location map of the property, 2622 Country Club Prado. It is an individually designated landmark. It was designed in, let's say, 1927.
We know this home.
In 1927, the architect is a rare one for us. His name is Robert Chinani. There's not a lot known about him. Designated in 2013. The application requests approval for a pool, rear deck, and swimming pool. There are unusual site conditions on the property. There's a very limited area in which they can place the pool. So staff was comfortable with the variance request. I'll let them present and then go through our recommendation. Great house. This is a 1940s.
Yeah, it's a beautiful house, and they've
I'm
done.
sorry, name and address,
Peter
please. Thank you,
Killigian
Mr.
with
Killigian.
PPKS Architects, who are the architects for the project. Forgive me, I'm a little rusty there. Yeah, it's a beautiful house. The owner has done a very good job of keeping it, upkeeping it, and restoring it. The house has all the attributes of the houses of that area. The one thing, the house used to be a full, the lot used to, it was two lots when they bought it. It was the Prado lot and the 57th lot. They were never subdivided, so the reason the site is kind of compromised because the garage, not only is it in the rear, but it's turned. So what we have is a very beautiful, usable courtyard, and they want to include a pool in it. So the 5 feet makes a big difference. These are the existing conditions. Again, very well kept. A beautiful example survey. You can see there the paving on the courtyard. Your packet may include a pergola and a bench that's being taken out. I think that's not going to be voted on.
Yeah, that was part of the report, is that it's shown in your drawings, but it's not.
It was approved by the Board of Architects, but Historic had some comments, and the owner is not going to do it anyway. So when they started pricing it out, and also they felt I was never in favor to begin with. So I'm glad it's not in there. So my presentation does not show that. So it's kind of a reduced version of what you have. We're meeting all the other zoning requirements. The only thing is that setback. And as you can see, the pool's already, I think, at about 9 feet or 10 feet more. So that's the existing floor plan. And what we want to try to do is keep the courtyard as a usable space. The changes to the front are from actually a chain link fence. I don't know how that got in. Well, it's at the corner. That's going to be a wall now. That's really the only change on the front. This is the rear. Again, the same. The only changes right now is going to be the wall versus the chain link fence, which I think is a positive change. On the side, you're going to get a gate between that barbecue structure and the garage. And similarly on the south elevation. So the only vertical elements here are really that wall and the gate. I mean, I almost didn't come, but I missed you guys. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that I've done a variance in a while, so I don't know how.
So the property originally had the lots to the rear going all the way to Red Road, and also the lots to its south on Country Club Prado. And neither of those lots changed the garage configuration. It was always in the rear, always side facings with that driveway going all the way around. So we felt that it was a appropriate request.
Great. Does that conclude your presentation?
It does. I'm here to answer any questions. We're seeking your approval. Obviously, we feel that it's a minimal, intrusion, but again, I haven't done a variance in a while, so I don't know the temperature of the variance. Any questions you may have for me, I'm happy to answer.
We have a couple of items. Any questions? Mr. Baños?
The neighbor, any objections from him?
No, there hasn't been any objections by anybody.
But have you asked?
Pardon?
Have you asked?
I haven't personally asked, so I'm assuming that it got posted. And for not any reasons having to do with the departments, this has been in the process for almost a year. The owner took his time. We got approval of the board. It sat around for a while, so if somebody was in opposition, they have plenty of time to come forward. So it's not.
Mr. Silva?
This follows on the heels of I think 2 meetings ago where we had an extensive discussion on rear buildings, right? And on rear garages and the importance of those things to be saved when they can, right? So this house technically by right could demolish that garage. Well, I mean, not by right, but you could have brought a proposal to us that demolishes that garage. You comply with zoning because you have a carport, and that would make your life a lot easier, right? But in this case, I think it's important to save that garage. You're not proposing to demolish it.
No, at all.
If we get a case like this where we are asked to make a small variance on something that in my opinion is minor and allows us to save that garage, I believe that is more important. And looking at the 8 conditions that are required for analysis of the zoning, I think this property complies because of the placement of that garage and its rotation at 90 degrees. So to me, I would be in favor of granting the variance.
Thank you. We feel the same way. I mean,
Any other questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, thank you. Let's open it up to public comment. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor or against this case? Is anybody on Zoom? Okay, hearing none, the public comment is closed. Bringing it back to the board for discussion. You guys can sit down.
We did have one condition. That we wanted to see the material of the light.
Of the what?
The condition of the material.
Of the pavers?
Yeah, condition of material.
it's fine.
You don't have a problem with
It's
that.
fine with us. Yeah. I think we're calling out Oolite, so we'll bring a sample.
Any additional discussion from the board? Since we're asking questions, Ms. Couch, what's that, the variance criteria legend? I don't know what you guys call it. It says here that the answer is yes to all 8 questions.
Correct.
I'm going to ask that question again.
Yes.
All right, is there a motion? We have 3 motions, right? There's two motions. Well, we have the approval of the design proposal, the SCOA, and then another one for the variance. I'll take the design proposal and the SCOA first. Does anybody have a motion for the design approval and or the SCOA?
I can do that. You can do that. You do that.
No, I just, I want to suggest or make a motion to approve, but is it simply to approve per staff? Or does it have
It's
to
your
be a more
motion.
lengthy explanation?
It'll be, I would imagine, a motion. You can sort of read what was there if you're in favor of the recommendation of the approval, and then state the condition above, which is number 1. Do you have that at page 5 of 5?
505. I have
Yeah, you would read that.
this top part.
A motion to approve, we start there, and then with a condition of.
A motion to approve the design proposal for addition, oh no, so we're only talking about the pool, so I would modify
Oh, yeah.
what's
it's
written
not
here.
additions.
Oh, yeah, you would. I'm so sorry. Yes, for the
A motion
construction
to
of the pool and
approve
deck.
the location of the pool and the design proposal for 2622 Country Club Prado with the condition by staff to provide the material sample for the Oolite pavers before installation.
And approval of the, oh, that's condition, sorry.
That's a,
So we have a motion to approve the design proposal and the SCOA. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Banos. Is staff clear on the proposal, on the motion regarding just the pool and, great. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, let's call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Silva? Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Banos?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. I'll entertain a motion for the variance if the same mover would like to make the motion.
Okay. A motion to approve the variance to allow the new pool to have an interior side setback of 5 feet versus the required 10 feet. And I need to keep reading. Does that summarize it? I think
That's enough for me.
okay.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Maxwell.
It's okay. It doesn't affect our
I know.
resolution.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, let's call the roll.
Mr. Banos?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
And Mr. Garcia Pons?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Are we ready to go back, Mr. Rahal, on the other item, or keep going? Great. So we're going.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. Collegian. We're going to go back to item SP 2024-025-236 Alito Avenue, and the applicant will be presenting.
I think I need to be an admin in order to share.
CGTV, can you make Mr. Rahal a co-host, please? That's probably why. Okay, he did it. Cool. Yeah.
To go back, I'm sorry again about that. For some reason, with other computers, it keeps on turning it. So I guess the best way to do it is go through this presentation. As described, we were proposing an addition. We've kept in mind that we want to keep it as minimal to the structure, or not to be invasive towards the existing structure as much as possible. So with that in mind, we've also discussed with historical to also return back some of the key elements in the facade that was prior existing, such as the entrance. Oh, well, this one won't point. Such as the entrance, the large round top door that was reduced somewhere along the line. So in our proposal is to bring the facade back to the way it had been designed originally. In regards to the addition itself, this is the screen pool area that we're proposing to demolish with aluminum screen. That was not a part of the original house anyways. But one of the key elements that Anna was describing was this little bump out right here that we were trying to keep our addition as small as possible to fit into that location without making it wider. Now with that, we have some challenges of how the square footage that we need, and of course with the design with the Board of Architects to establish a good, decent design. And again, the flat roof, as described, arched. One second. Here are the elevations that will show the front a little bit more. This is the existing home as it is right now. Our proposed addition is to be on the left side. We have brought down the height so it's not too imposing on the existing structure or it doesn't overwhelm it itself. We recessed the the addition itself. As you can see right here, this is where the addition is. We recessed the addition at least almost 1 foot 10 inches, so it will stand out as an addition, not as a part of the original home. And as mentioned, our addition connects here, so we don't impose on that little bump out or keep that as least invasive towards that little feature as much as we can. And now, in regards to some of the setbacks, we did provide a 10-foot 7-inch setback on the front, which is a lot more than the minimum requirement of the 5 feet. Now, of course, there's also another code that states it's in Coral Gables, Section 2-101, which states we have to have 20% of the setbacks on the sides of the home to the lot width. Now, the maximum side setback happens to be 20 feet. And the minimum side setback, because we have a 100-foot property, it ends up being also 20 feet. Now, I'm assuming that code was implemented in there in order to minimize, if you have, let's say, an 80-foot property, they don't want you to be too close to the edges. However, at a 100-foot property, that happens to be the same exact number. Now, in regards to the design, this is the existing. The proposed would be down here. These are the more accurate architectural plans. The rear, this is the existing. The rear, the addition would be this area right here, and this is the existing. In addition to any features that we're remodeling or redoing into the home, we're trying to revert it back to its original state. So all the windows would be from the original style that it was intended to be. Side elevation. This is just a massing. The right portion was changed a little bit more with the BOA, but this is just an idea of where the stucco, we're going to differentiate it with smoother stucco instead of the rough for the addition portion. And of course, return all the original style to the facade that was there. Now, in regards to neighboring homes, most neighboring homes are only 5-foot setback from the sides. So we believe that by proposing a 10-foot 7-inch setback on the addition part, it is more than enough space for it to be recessed from the property line. Now, it happened to be that the existing, I'm sorry. Yes, the existing carport is 5 foot 6 inches from this side, so our addition would be 10 feet 7 inches to the property line from the front. Now, the property does angle a little bit, so towards the rear of the addition, it will be a 10 foot from the property line. Now, with that, as mentioned, I do believe that interpreting that code for the zoning code with a 20% is to avoid different situations than what we're proposing. I don't think that, we're not asking for a variance for a fight, within the 5-foot minimum or anything of that nature. Surrounding homes, as mentioned, this is a corner lot home. It's almost built, to the property edge. And although a corner lot home, it's still, built to the property edge. This is another home that we saw that also, I don't believe they have a 15-foot setback. And with that, I mean, the point of this is just to show that it wouldn't be something it wouldn't stand out like a sore thumb. If anything, I think a 15-foot setback from one side on an interior lot would look a little bit awkward and empty. I think that if there are any questions, please, I can go back and forth through the slides, and we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr. Silva.
I'll save my discussion for later, but I do have a technical question.
Please.
Maybe it's for staff. So they're asking for a 4'6" variance, right? So that, I'm looking at the survey, and that, so on the front of the house, they've got an existing about 5'6" setback on one side. So if you take the 10 feet that they're proposing, right, that's 15.6, that's a 4'6" setback. My question is, are the setbacks different for the rear garage? Because that is actually closer to the side property line.
Yeah,
So
so
if-
that interpretation was identified by the zoning reviewer during the preliminary review, so those numbers are coming from that reviewer. And
So
from-
we are to disregard, because
that-
we would have
yes,
to
I
ask.
realized that too, the
Right,
garage
it's
in the
like a
rear
foot
is
closer.
about a foot closer, so he identified it as the 14'7", I think it is total.
Yeah.
On that east side.
And then, oh, I'm sorry, it's not sure.
I just want to make sure we're all
Yeah.
straight, so we know we're approving or not approving. But, so essentially, that garage is sort of being disregarded then from this.
At this
from
point,
this-
yeah,
Okay.
that's so that the zoning reviewer interpreted it. And I know that they had met with him because I think there was some discussion about the 20% versus the 20 feet, and if there was BOA approval for it, whether or not that could count toward, moving forward, but they recommended that they come here.
Okay.
And that's, if you check sheet SP, the site plan, you can see what Mr. Silva's talking about with the sides. Any additional questions for staff or the applicant?
And I'm not sure if
Oh, if we could put the presentation, his screen back up?
yeah, so this is what we would propose in the front, a 10-foot 7-inch. With the existing setback right now from the property is 5'7". Now, my concern is by providing that setback, we have to also accommodate to the client and their needs to make the addition worthwhile. I'm afraid that I also don't want to, through the design, impose any further on the existing structure itself, trying to make up for that additional square footage, or also create a too much of a courtyard instead of, something where light can come in. And that, I mean, in a design perspective, it would be definitely a challenge to coordinate all of that together.
I think I can gather it on the project meets the FAR and the lot coverage.
Yes.
Okay, the sheets have a lot of
We're
comment notes
very-
on them, but.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so-
we're very.
This
I mean,
was the
we're
only
not-
thing identified.
Yeah, we're not proposing something extraordinary, just something to meet the requirements of just adding one additional kitchen and, a little bit of a living space, but nothing, we're not proposing 2 stories or filling the whole lot. If anything, actually, if I go back to the site plan, you can see on the site plan, we have optimal space back here. And we've left it open, created a beautiful space. And as I was discussing, this is the 14-foot 7-inch setback that would be required in the red line. As you can see, by doing this, I would either have to extend this further down, alter the design, which has taken at least 5 revisions with the Board of Architects and their help to come up with something that we feel is very balanced to fit the structure.
Okay, Ms. Payne?
No, I was just asking, what did you just say about the Board of Architects? I'm sorry.
We've been going back and forth with the Board of
Oh, I
Architects,
see.
and they are, to put it, to what they said, it's their baby the last 2 times, is that they're very happy about the design. They're excited, and, we've come up with this design, I would say, with collaboration with the Board of Architects and their approval.
So we've had some questions? Remember, there is a request for design approval and an SCOA. So if you have any questions for the architect, now's a great time. We can also bring it back during discussion. I did have a question for staff. It's a similar question I asked earlier regarding the variance criteria. Do you mind going through it as a staff member through each one of them?
Each one?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the list of 8 items that we consider during the criteria for a variance. And so we believe that the number 1, the special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. And we do not believe it meets that criteria. This is a standard 100 by 100 foot lot. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. No, the situation that is being presented before you is created by the applicant by proposing the addition where it is. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by this ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. That one was yes. That literal interpretation of the provisions of the zoning code would deprive the applicant rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the zoning code and would work unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Again, no, the 20% is the standard for this property. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. We believe it does not meet that criteria because it is a larger 100 by 100 foot lot. That granting the variance will not change the use to one that is different from other land in the same district. That one is yes. That granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the zoning code, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Again, we said no. And then that granting that the variance is appropriate for the continued preservation of the historic landmark or historic landmark district, and that was a no as well because we believe it could be reconfigured.
Thank you, Ms. Bedna. So, Mr. Rahal, you have stated your case that it's...
I do believe that this is an interpretation zoning code. 20%, zoning codes are created to keep balance. If you're going to say that a 20% minimum is the exact number as the maximum, obviously the code was not intended for that, for this situation. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for that. I believe that the 20% code was created for properties that are more awkward numbers, such as 70-foot wide lot, 80-foot wide lot. So the home does not look like it's an 80-foot lot with 5-foot setbacks. Now, with that stated, we provided optimal amount of space, and all the homes that were around there, whether across the street or on the side or the entire area, it's a 5-foot setback. I think it would make it more awkward to provide a 14-foot 6-inch setback on one side and on an inside lot. Corner lots, that's typical, but on an inside lot, I think that is an eyesore, if anything.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Banos.
Have you contacted your next door neighbor? Any objections to what you're trying to do?
Not that I know of, but...
The item was noticed, Ms. Bevins?
Yeah, the item was noticed, posted, and mailed. Notices also went out.
I'm sorry?
That the item was, the property was posted, and that mail notices did go out.
Great.
But go ahead.
Mr. Maxwell, Ms. Spain, where do you want to go?
Thank you. Would you and the owner be, rather than face a denial today, would you be willing to defer this and work with staff to overcome some of these objections and bring it back? I understand that you put in a tremendous amount of work, but...
just to put it in perspective, and I don't want to speak for the owner, I'm sure they will, but I know that there is a little... we have been working on this for over a year, and we've worked with historical to designate it into historical. We proposed the addition in 2022, and we've working along with historical, with Board of Architects, and the design has been thought out for a long time. And as you can imagine, it does become a burden on the client to, continue with this process as they wait to get the permits approved, and even not even able to live in it because they purchased the property and they're waiting to renovate it. Now, with that stated, that would be something, that we can discuss with the client, but I would,
There's been no motion yet.
yeah. I would be, I believe she's there. Yeah, of course. If you don't mind, she's right here too.
Good afternoon.
If you please come to the mic and state your name.
Good afternoon. It's the first time that I'm here.
Your name, please.
Monica Bufele.
Thank you.
I'm the owner of the house. Well, my husband bought it for me. So we can live.
Yeah. Can we please swear her in?
No, I wasn't.
Affirm the testimony about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes. So my only concern right now is that we've been going back and forth many times. And it's really getting frustrating because I had to rent the house and I haven't been able to move into my house. I have 3 kids and I want to have like a nice place for them. One just got back from the university and I have 2 that are going, they're twins, and they're in junior year and they're going to the university in 2026. So my request is, please give us an idea of when can we start, because this is really getting frustrating and we need to move forward. He's one of board of the architects who have seen our case many times, and we don't know what else to do. He's been working really hard to get this the way we have been told, but every time we come, it's a different thing. It's many opinions on one thing. So the only thing I'm asking is for one guidance and not to be changed next time.
We're happy to do that. There's been no motion today, so there was just a question by a board member. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, Mr. Baños?
Yeah. Can you address, so part of my issue here, my concern, okay, is that you don't meet the criteria for the variance, okay? It's strictly speaking, right? So,
Now, I do disagree with some certain things that
I understand,
I believe that we
but
do meet the
there
criteria.
is that conclusion by staff.
Yeah.
And some of it is a little hard to ignore.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you speak a little bit to it other than, this is the best possible solution you came up with the Board of Architects and this for you moving forward for it?
No. It is beyond that. I think I will address that. It's absolutely the interpretation of that zoning code is not. I don't believe, like I stated, the maximum side setbacks for that property is 20 feet. The minimum is 20 feet. That 20% code is not intended for their situation like this. That was intended, and you have to keep in mind that all the neighboring homes, being on a 50-foot lot, are a 5-foot setback. So to create another 15-foot setback because it's on a 100-foot lot, that is going to create a huge gap in the middle of the street. It wasn't to avoid that code, but I believe, if anything, this is doing it justice for zoning code and what it's intended to be. Other than the side of the street, corner street setbacks, 15 feet, that's the only area that's usually that wide.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal. Mr. Bond, it's the same answer. So, Ms. Spain.
So that 20% overall side setback has been in the city code for as long as I remember. I was a zoning administrator for a while. It was very important that people understood that when they started designing an addition. And as far as the historic portion of this, that doesn't affect that because they're not counting the garage, which I think is a given. It's pretty amazing that the zoning, that the people reviewing zoning wouldn't say, no, that garage is a couple of feet from it, so you need to pull it way back. And they didn't do that. So you're already getting a break because of the historic nature of the property. And so I think that 20% is important, and it's important for the streetscape of that street, and I think you should have taken that in consideration when you designed it. My main concern, though, is the windows, because I think it was in the staff report that you're changing the location of original windows.
Correct.
And
Certain
are
areas,
those windows that are visible from the,
Yes, we do
Great.
have an outline. We will keep the outline. All of the windows that are being changed, we are placing them within the openings.
Could you put that up again, please?
Yeah, so here are some of the elevations. That's the rear elevation. This is the existing. Any windows that we are installing, we're keeping them within the openings. The sill will remain in that area. We'll also keep an outline of all the window outlines of the original one. Another, this is the front, so the addition is different. This is also the side, the interior
now, is that the side that they can see from the street?
No, no, this is on the interior. This is where the pool would be over here. This is the front of the home. This would be the front of the home. And this is the existing. This is the home at the front of the home. This square right here is the addition covering what's going on behind it. However, all the windows will remain, as you can see, we are keeping the openings in the same vicinity.
So the windows are not exactly the same. They're within the envelope of the existing window.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think that.
We
is
had
that
to
the case?
reconfigure the interior.
I'm sure for the door it isn't the case.
And the window on the top.
Hello?
Yes.
What was that?
Yeah, there's nobody recognized to speak on Zoom.
I'm sorry, who was speaking on the Zoom? Please mute yourself until acknowledged. We're not at the public comment. And if you're one of the presenters, please note that in the comments so we can have you appropriately sworn in or acknowledged by the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal.
Sorry,
Anna.
could you repeat the question?
The applicant stating that the new windows are within
So there
exactly
are
the same as the existing windows. They're within the footprint or the area of the existing windows.
No, that's incorrect.
No,
So
they're
their window.
not the same. They're within, so if there's an opening and we're enclosing it, if we are placing a window, to give you, there the plans are right here. So this is an opening right here, where if we're proposing a window, we are proposing it within that opening.
Right, that's what I meant to say.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Exclusive of the door. Unless the,
Exactly, exclusive of the door. And now to keep in mind that we don't have any existing plans for historic. Anything that was used were the drawings that I had done by existing, by measurements. So, and all those windows and doors on the side.
So the real response is that original openings are being modified into smaller openings or being adjusted to meet the new floor plan. So I think that's what you probably read in my report portion, and that we were recommending to look back at that to restudy where you can keep most of the openings. And there's also like the sleeping porch at the back, that those have the bigger openings at the, well, now is
On A3 is
the cabana bathroom, I think is what you're looking at, where the sleeping porch was, where there's two larger openings. And so those are all being minimized to just one window within that.
Mr. Rahal, can you go to A3, please?
Oh, yeah.
no, that'd be A4.
A4 maybe?
A4?
A2,
Okay.
no, I'm looking at A3.
Okay, A3 is, no, that's not it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Silva.
if it's a little difficult to see on the presentation, but if you look at the package A3, I think he's drawn the existing masonry opening as dotted, and you can
Yes,
see
yes,
the two.
exactly.
It's hard to see.
It's
up
hard
there.
to see on the display and on the plans. All the existing are outlined. We will
They were going to
score-
maintain the recess of the opening and then keep the modified opening within that space.
Right, thank you, Mr. Silva. Ms. Spain,
I got it. I understand.
all right.
I don't know why A3 is not showing.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal. Any additional questions for staff or the architect?
I have a
Ms.
question for
Alvarez.
staff before
Anna.
Anna goes away. Sorry. So, on a non-historic house, it's typically, a good strategy to add the way this one was added to. But since this is so towards the front, is that one of the comments or discussions you've had with the applicant?
Yeah, so I had initial conversation with them when they were going through the BOA process. Like they mentioned, they were identified by BOA to be designated. So they had actually started the process before getting landmarked. There was concern with how far forward the addition was and how it competed with the length of the original. And so that was something that I had brought up a few times in talking with the designer, the architect. I understand kind of why he was using that section of the building to maintain the projecting piece without trying to push it back, because if you had to push it back, then you had to make the opening from for the hallway through that projecting piece. And then kind of alter that side elevation a little bit more. So there was discussion on that about where exactly it would land. If it's too far back, then you really don't have a backyard. And so it's not an ideal location where we would typically allow, and trying to create some sort of transition between the old and the new is what we were trying to push for while they were going through the BOA process. And then the BOA did support this last application at their last hearing.
And if you don't mind, I can also address it. I don't. Can we have the slide back up? Thank you. Okay, so this is the existing home. This is the foyer area. Our addition, we step back almost, 1.5, almost 2 feet, and then we do another step back. So we are recessing as we go along. So from the front to where the addition is, there's optimal space, from the setback. And maybe I can go to the site plan that you can see it. So this is the front. You enter the home, this is an enclosed space. So, our addition is way back, and we set it back twice. And this is, that's where the side issue is.
Thank you, Mr. Rahal. Anything else? Any questions? All right, thank you very much. We're going to open it to public comment. Does anybody in the audience wish to speak in favor or in opposition to this case? Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, I'd like to speak. Yes.
Can you get on camera?
Yeah, I don't have permission.
Oh.
If CGTV could please allow what is your name displayed on Zoom, and you'll need to be sworn in as you were not here earlier. The comment is, the username is 230.
Stephen Hartley.
Stephen Hartley.
Yes, Stephen Hartley.
CGTV could please allow the camera on, and if you could please be sworn in, Mr. Hartley, as soon as that pops up.
Sure, I was sworn in initially.
Oh, you were sworn in earlier? Okay, we would still need you on camera for your comments.
Sure.
CGTV?
CGTV. Can we see Stephen Hartley, please? He has control. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Here we go. Thank you. Mr. Hartley, please proceed with your comments, and please state your name and address for the record before you begin. Thank you.
My name is Stephen Hartley, 230 Aledo Avenue. I live in the property directly to the east. I grew up in the 236 Aledo address that's being reviewed now. My parents purchased it before I was born, lived there all my life, sold it to the current owner, and we're very happy to see them coming in and improving the property. The design looks very good. Definitely happy with it. I am concerned with the setbacks. It is very tight. looking at the design helps. I will say that. I think there's even less than there's not a whole lot of room already on the side to our property line, and it is very tight. The property 236 property already has already encroaches on the front facade, on the facade, and that's just the way it was designed originally. It is further forward than any other house on the block. It also, as was noted, encroaches on setback on the west side. And I am surprised that the garage wasn't addressed, because that's almost directly on the property line, just a few feet off. And again, that same, I'll call it garage outbuilding, encroaches on the rear, on the south side. So there's definitely a whole lot of room on that property already to build a beautiful home. Like I said, the design as I saw it, I really don't have objection. There was a window missing on the I think it was elevation A5 on the east facade on the upper right on the that window was omitted in the design, which is fine. I don't have objection to that. Also, there's a crest that I want to make sure stays, and that's on the front facade. It wasn't shown in the design. I'm sure it's covered in stucco, but it's there. But as for the setback, it is a little close. I'm happy to see that it's 1 story and not 2. As long as the AR is met, I don't have a whole lot of objection. My main concern is once established, another can build into it. And something that's not cool. So that said, I don't have any other comment. Just that it's a little tight on the east side. But we do want to see the owner move in. We really want them to, come and improve the home.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. We're going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Any discussion amongst the board members? Thank you, Mr. Rahal.
Okay.
Any discussion on any? Yeah, Mr. Silva.
I'll go first. So this one is a little more difficult for me than the one we just heard as regarding the setbacks for a couple issues, right? Number one, I think the other one clearly met all those benchmarks, right, that we talked about, that is a requirement actually of this board. This one, I'm not quite so sure, right? It's number two, the other setback variance request dealt with flat work, right? We're talking about pool, we're talking about things that are not three-dimensional. This deals with the massing of the house, right? Putting it a little closer than is permitted. The garage, for me, the existing garage is a big issue. We talk about trying to save those where we can and not penalizing owners for these things existing in the back corner. In this case, you're not being penalized for the garage because it's being kind of disregarded. So what they're looking at is the setback of the front of the house, which is, you find that condition everywhere, right? There's tons of houses with a 5-foot and a 15-foot setback on a 100-foot lot. That's pretty typical. And it's the zoning code is written that way to allow for some variance, right? So you don't have just dum, 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 dum. There's some variance on site placing, but there is kind of this consistent green space in between houses, right? So to me, I think I agree with staff in that you don't meet all these requirements, but I don't have issues with the fenestration replacement on the existing. I think kind of as a concept, the design is well thought out. I don't have an issue with it being pushed so far forward because I think that preserving that pop-out makes sense. And I think the elevation is a little deceiving, the elevation on A5, because you're taking just the side elevation, but you actually read that volume much more because there's beyond this tall flat roof.
Yeah, there is.
Mr. Howell?
There is a pitch.
Mr. Howell, this is just board.
So beyond that, there's a pitched roof, and you read that volume all the way through, so it makes sense the way that house connects, I think, and preserves that massing there. I think there is a simple solution. I think if the applicant is willing to look at kind of shrinking a little bit, we're not talking a lot, right? I think you can take a little bit out of that family and dining, a little bit out of that kitchen, and if you need to, you can extend it a little bit farther forward and not change your whole concept, not change your whole design, but I think it's fairly easy moves that you can make and comply with zoning and have the house that you want. And just a question for staff, sorry if I may. If we pass a motion today that denies the variance but sort of approves.
Can't do it.
You can't do that.
That's not what's before you. So you can.
So it would have to be a deferral
or right, a continuance.
Approval or denial.
Or approval or denial. And does that, okay, so if we defer, but if we defer, they don't go back to the Board of Architects, they just come back to us.
Well, so it's going to depend on how they
Modify
end
the
up
building.
responding to your request, right?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Silva. Any other, Mr. Baños?
Yeah, but I mean, I think the request from the applicant and from the homeowner more than anything else is, tell me how far you're going to pull the pole and don't move it any further, right? So give me a concrete resolution. I think I would agree wholeheartedly with Mr. Silva's position. I don't know what Ms. Payne's position is, but I think I'm okay with the way they're handling the windows. I think most of the time the windows are not, the openings are there, right? It's consistent with what they're trying to do. I like the design. I think it's a beautiful design. It's missing the Rolls Royce, but other than that, it's very nice. What I hate is to create a situation where we're granting a variance where there's no hardship or it doesn't meet the criteria, and then we're not creating a precedent, but we're giving a special treatment to some degree without it meeting the requirements to have that special treatment. And I don't think it's fair to everybody else who shows up here or for in order to meet our duties. But my only suggestion is perhaps it'll be more advisable rather than deny it for us to maybe defer this item, okay? Allow them to continue to work with staff, just move, as Mr. Silva said, just move this space to the a little bit. And I think they can be back here and not waste more time or money on whatever these folks want, so they can finally build their home. So that would be my suggestion. If there's no other discussion to defer the item, I will move for that. But I don't know if anybody wants to speak on that.
Thank you, Mr. Baños. Ms. Alvarez?
I just have one comment on the windows, and I agree with the comments from Mr. Silva and Mr. Baños. So the windows, especially when you look at the sheet A6, you get all these different configurations for the lights. I know you mentioned there was no microfilm original drawings, and there's some departure from the original window sizes, but I think typically there's a kind of strategy where you find a similar proportion, because I think right now when you look at that sheet in particular, it stands out that some are vertical, some are very horizontal, some are square, and I think that makes the proposal more disjointed. And also, if you continue in the direction of the kitchen on that end facade, I don't know what the orientation is, you end up with a very blank facade. Right now, it's just one window, so I think that has to be studied as well, especially towards the neighbor. Usually we discourage just blank walls, which you're ending up with there. So I just wanted to add that to the
Thank you,
comments.
Ms. Alvarez. Ms. Rolando?
Yes. Clearly, the applicant does not meet the requirements for a variance. I think we've got us, whether you can perhaps debate one or two of the criteria, but the applicant is supposed to comply with all of them. So I am not comfortable approving this variance. I do have some concerns about the addition. I'm clearly in the minority. I think it's too massive and too kind of monumental. I am appreciative of the fact that it's one story, not two. Do I think it's attractive? Yes, I do. Do I believe that it fits here? Not really. But I'm not the design professional on this board. So I don't think it's appropriate to grant a variance here. Otherwise, it's going to look lot line to lot line. That is not appropriate for this neighborhood, nor, and I'm hearing what the neighbor is saying here as well. So I'm not going to vote to approve this.
Thank you, Mr. Lando. Any further discussion?
I just have, how long is that family room? What is the length of it?
So, Mr. Hall, that's a specific question. Could you come up and answer,
I'm sorry,
please?
I apologize. I've been trying to figure it out. It's 15 feet wide, and it's 10 feet in between the columns, so I'm thinking it's like 30?
Yes.
25, 30?
Yes.
15 by 30?
Yeah, let me,
Nice
actually I can pull up the
proportion.
construction
Huge
documents.
room. The actual room you're looking, I was going to say the entire addition is 48.
No, just the
No, I'm
room.
talking about just this family room. I think there's
let
plenty
me-
of room to reduce that.
I can actually pull up now.
Which would be an easy fix.
I mean, yes, so it comes out to 40,
I'm sorry.
it's about 28 feet.
28.
28 feet, and that will combine 26 to 28 feet,
26.
and that would be the living room and the dining room. And I do want to mention one thing. The property line does angle out, so it's not only adding 4.5 feet in order to meet the old side setback, would be 5.5 from the front. Because as it angles out, we're going to have to meet that.
But
14.6.
you're not asking for us to move 1 foot or half a foot because of the awkwardness of the thing.
No, I'm saying in total.
Asking
adds
for
up
like 4.5 feet, almost 5 feet. So, like if the variance was move half a foot on the side because of the awkwardness of that, well, there you have maybe hardship and you're doing something. I get that, okay? But here it's, it's junk.
Was that a question, Mr. Baños?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rahal.
I was giving feedback. How about that? Yeah.
Thank you. Any other discussion amongst the board members? So I have some comments, and then I'll sort of pose a question to the applicant. I appreciate the argument the applicant is making with the minimum 20, maximum 20, with the it's going to be 5 and change, and then at least 10. So there are other buildings. If it were a smaller lot, it would be 5 feet possibly, or smaller numbers in actual distance. But I also appreciate Mr. Rolando's comment is the building's going to be longer. It's going to be a bigger building on the block. And the reason we have a 20% setback is so that there is a proportional relationship between buildings and sites, whether it's 5, 10, 15, or 20 feet. So that's where it gets a little complicated, but I have to say I really do appreciate the argument the architect is making. I also agree with my colleagues that I think it's something, it's self-imposed, right? This is something that the applicant and the architect has done in order to meet criteria that does not meet the zoning criteria, and maybe some of them, as Mr. Rolando said, maybe not all of them. having heard our discussion, would the applicant be amenable to a deferral, or do you want an up and down approve or denial today? And I'm asking prior to any motion being made by the board.
Thank you for being diplomatic.
So the applicant is amenable to doing lots of things. So I will now open it to the board. Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I would like to move to defer the item.
Mr. Banos is making a motion to defer the item to the next possible meeting. I know that we have to reset, we have to do everything, right? So we'll just defer it.
We can defer it, and if it's the next meeting, it would be the next meeting, and we don't necessarily need to renotice. We'll look at it, but if the applicant needs a bit more time, we may, or notice requires more time, we'll let you know.
Is it, well, I'd say the word continued, but I don't know that to be possible. Ms. Benas. If we use the word continued, does that change the motion in any way?
No, you can continue it to the next meeting, that's fine.
And if they're not ready the next meeting?
Then it can be continued again.
Okay, so that means that we don't have to renotice if it's continued.
If it's continued to a date certain, we do not need to renotice.
So the October 16th meeting.
Okay, so is the mover willing to continue this to the next meeting?
I'll amend my motion to continue it to next meeting as opposed to.
And Ms. Bednas, what's the date again?
October 16th.
Okay, we have a motion to continue this item to the meeting of October 16th. Is there a second?
Yes, second.
So there's a motion by Mr. Banos, a second by Mr. Maxwell. Any discussion?
Does he understand that some of us won't vote for the variance? I don't want him getting out of here thinking he can just make it less. I just, are they?
Well, if it's a request for a different
People have been
variance,
through so
Ms.
much.
Spain,
We should
yeah.
give them clear instructions.
Sorry, Ms. Spain, hold on, Madam City Attorney.
Yeah, so just to be clear, a continuance means this exact same item will be coming back for you at the next meeting. If in the meantime, there are discussions between staff and the applicant and a variance request is for a different number, for instance, or a very different COA, there may need to be renoticed. Obviously, you guys would need to get the plans, et cetera. What a continuance does is brings back this exact same item and this exact same request to you next time. To the extent that there's a modified request for a variance, that would require different noticing, et cetera. So I think the applicant has heard your feedback today, and we will work with them on any noticing or publication requirements if needed.
Then I have to.
Deferral would be the same. If you're not deciding today.
You said that the variance has to be the same variance?
So the item that was noticed was a request for the 10 feet or 14, or I've got the numbers wrong there, but
doesn't matter.
This specific request. So if there's a different variance request, for instance, 2 feet, if they redesign the building that's 2 feet, it may need to be renoticed. I'll need to look
Okay,
at that.
Then I'm going to make Mr. Silva.
Sorry. What about if it's 0 feet, just to clarify that, right?
If they remove the request,
Then that will come back before you, and they will withdraw the request for a variance. That's
does it have to be renoticed?
no. If the item comes before you again and they are no longer requesting it, we don't need to renotice it. So the public would be aware that they had requested a variance and are no longer requesting it. That's fine.
So what would happen in October is the applicant would come, they would request withdrawal of the variance and request the COA for the addition without the variance.
Which presumably would be
If that
modified
is
so
the
to
case.
no longer
Rahul,
require the variance.
Are you're clear? It's either we continue it,
Yes.
and you come back with the same number, or zero,
Zero variance, yes.
or we defer it and do this differently.
No, understood. And I understand that coming back with the same number will be a denial. Understandable. Now, I do have one question.
No, I just want to make sure you're clear.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, please ask your question.
Relating to the garage, there was some talk and discussion about certain things, and we also don't want to have issues later on where zoning flags it and states that we need a variance for it. Now, it is a part of the historical structure itself. It is somehow connected also with an arch to the existing building. What do we do in that situation? We're not modifying it, we're not. proposing
Stated in
to
the
change it.
report, it is not part of this application. I did not get
Yeah.
any,
No, we're not intending to,
so it's not included in this permit.
but some of the comments were stating that there could be a denial.
So we'll
Or
reconfirm
somehow.
the setback requirements for with zoning to make sure that that is being identified with the 4'7" is the accurate number.
So again, that's
It
what I
wasn't
want to
about touching the
clarify,
building.
is the application we have before us is pretty clear to us.
Okay.
And you have the option of either coming back with the same number or zero. If it's any other number, it's got to be renoticed, and you've heard the board speak.
Of course.
So as long as you understand what the intentions of the board are,
Yes.
I think it's clear. Now, Ms. Spain's trying to be incredibly clear, but that's why I had all the discussion first, so you can hear all of us give our opinions.
We've had good practice with the Board of Architects for the last couple months, so we're clear, yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Any
you very
other comments from the board before we take a vote?
I believe we are lacking a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. We are, no, we have Mr. Maxwell.
Okay, apologies.
We have Mr. Maxwell. Okay, great. We have a motion for a continuance by Mr. Banos, seconded by Mr. Maxwell. Please call the roll.
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
Mr., excuse me. Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Banos?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Ponce?
Yes, motion is continued to the October 16th meeting, 7-0. Thank you very much. So we have one more item. Case file COASP 2024-028, an application for the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the property at 1407 Ferdinand Street, a local historic landmark, legally described as Lot 1, Block 67, Coral Gables, Granada section, according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 8 at page 113 of the Public Records of Miami-Dade County, Florida. The application requests design approval for additions and alterations to the residence and site work.
Thank you. I am nearly out of water and cough drops, so I'm going to talk really fast to you all. This is location map of the property on Ferdinand Street, north of Milan Avenue.
This is not going to last.
It's a photo from the 1920s, a fish spa photo. It's an unusual house in that the entire second floor in the front that you see was a screened sleeping porch, since enclosed. It was permitted in 1925, designed by Martin Hampton. It was designated in 2005. So they are requesting approval for an addition and alterations to the property, approximately 284 square feet. There are no variances being requested as part of this application. It was approved, I think that date is wrong, by the Board of Architects with the condition that the new roof, thank you, overhang is to match the existing. And we did have a couple of staff conditions as part of any condition motion to approve. I will let the architect give you his presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Smith. I've been before you before. Some of you I know, some of you are new faces to me. But thank you for having me. Finally, just a little background before I get into the presentation. We're very familiar with this property. My firm and I were involved in having it designated in 2005. We worked with the staff. Kara probably was there at the time. Donna might have even had a hand in it, but we got the designation at the time in 2005. We actually, for the previous owner, planned the addition that was deferred by the client that was supposed to be built in 2007. That client felt that this was going to be their forever home. They were transferred to Chicago. Sold the house to my client, who I inherited, who I'm representing here this evening. And they, in fact, built the vision that the previous owner had, with some modifications, a little bit of expansion that added an addition in the back. I'll start my presentation here in a second. This addition that we're proposing today is on the second floor. There was, through a series of things, including the pandemic, and then a couple of things that we discovered, we had our shoelaces tied together. Zoning zapped us for the addition being more than 25% of the original home. They locked us into that, even though the original house had a garage in the back that had been demolished with the authorization of the city. We tried to pitch the fact that the original home, including the garage, should be counted in that square footage. That went nowhere. We completely redesigned the second floor addition to be half of what it was, and probably the least that the client could tolerate. So 5 years later, this started in 2019. 5 years later, I finally made it almost to the finish line. So I'm here tonight to share that with you. I have the staff's recommendations, and we're in agreement with everything there. And some of the things we had actually overlooked that we had considered 20 years ago as conditions of the approval. So I'll go through that. Very nice house, fairly well maintained. The home is in the north section of the Gables, 14th Street or so, near 8th Street. It's an aerial view, right about where that red spot is on the Google map is the area of the addition that we're proposing. It's in the rear of the home, and it extends to the south, to the bottom of the page, so that the structure can span and be supported by the walls. These are some of the FAR numbers. We are nowhere near the maximum limit for lot coverage isn't changing. FAR numbers, unfortunately, we are way under what the FAR would allow, but we're restricted by the ordinance that we were not aware of, restricting this to 25%. I took a picture of this just this past weekend and included it in the PowerPoint. This is, from what we can tell, I don't know if it's original, but it's the principal texture of the stucco on the building. This is what we did to differentiate, working with staff the last time. We have the addition is a little bit different texture. It's a little brush stroked, where the existing is more stippled. And then also you can see the difference in the two textures on the left-hand side of this slide. I think we did a fairly decent job differentiation the two, but having it not look like chalk and cheese. This is the addition that we did 15 years ago. I'm sorry, in 2017 that we planned 15 years ago. This is the east-facing portion of the house. This is the kitchen side with the casement windows, by the way, that I'll address here in the comments. This, unfortunately, is the second-story east-facing elevation as it exists and as it was originally planned, apparently. Our addition will cover this, bring it forward 12 feet, and then span across to the other side of the house. This is the window that was written up by staff. What we did, because this addition has taken so long to get to this far, the client, working with the window contractor, the client called me and said, I want to get impact windows in the house. We're going to take the whole house window provision out of the application. We went back and took it out of the permit plan. And we didn't, and this window was the only one that remained. We are now proposing that we don't change this window opening or modify it. We're going to, if it's included in our plan set, or if it goes into the window permit set that's been already applied for separately, it will be a casement window, size for size, in that opening, following staff's recommendation. Again, unfortunately, this is what you see. I kind of walked around the block. This house is, the yard that I'm in that I took this picture is on the corner. That's the most that you're going to see now. That's what you see now of the existing from the southeast perspective. These two plans side by side, they're a little bit different scale, but on the left is the existing site plan, and the second floor plan on the right, you can see the addition, which is the extension in the back and the hip roof that goes to the south. This is the existing first level. There's no change on this at all. Again, here is the existing and proposed second floor. Again, all of this is on the east side of the stair. On the east side, our original intent, our original plan had been to extend the addition all the way to the front and make a real decent master bedroom. So now, only thing we've been able to do is we're going to add a study. They're going to be using the existing bedroom as a master, but they now have a better master bath and closet, and that's what this was about. This is the front elevation that is existing and proposed. This has been to the Board of Architects. Board of Architects basically had no, this has been at the Board of Architects a couple of times because we showed them the grand scheme. Thank you very much. And this is the modified scheme that that we had no comments really to speak of from the Board of Architects. This is the unfortunate north elevation at the top. Those windows that are shown in the addition will be casement. We'll work with staff to get that. I think those can be casement and still meet egress. We'll work with staff to make that happen. That the size of that opening will not change, and the bathroom window, as mentioned before, is either going to be in or out as the casement window in our plan. So this is the rear elevation that you really can't see from anywhere, but it's a lot better. Where the one window that was a real narrow window, well, that now is a wall forward, and that will also be a casement window. The front elevation will both be casement. I'm sorry, the rear elevation at the top of the slide. That I'll work with staff to see if we can use a single casement on that narrow window, which is, I believe, in the bathroom. But we'll address all the staff comments. Same thing on the south elevation. The new window that's shown there on the only projection will be casement. And that's my story today. So.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Okay, if you'd like, I can address the points the staff made, but I think I've kind of crossed over those. So.
You said you had no issues with you were fine with the conditions.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, great. Any questions for staff or the architect?
Are there original drawings of the original house, in particular the eave? I feel like it's missing a trim or something happened there.
It's been boxed out over time.
And in Board of Architects, they asked us to make the addition that we're doing now match what's there. So.
Is that what you want to do?
Because that was the only comment that we got from the Board of Architects.
Well, it's all their fault.
It was overrated.
Ms. Alvarez, do you have a recommendation?
Yeah.
What?
Do you have a recommendation or a question?
Are you going to disagree with the Board of Architects, Ms. Alvarez?
Please don't make me go back there.
I mean, there's a photograph, the 26th photograph that's there. I don't know if there were exposed rafter ends. There looks to be like it's boxed out, but maybe not as dramatically as it is now.
Yeah, it looks boxed out. Does look boxed out.
Right? But it seems a bit more dramatic. Maybe the color, I don't know if it's different, but it's definitely.
This house existed a long time before it was designated, so.
Yeah.
Is the existing roof being re-roofed as a result of the addition?
It will be, and one of the conditions is when we do that, that it conform to, I said it would conform to the staff notes, which was that it be the true two-piece barrel tile, which we're doing.
I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to correct that, as part of the re-roofing. If it's basically just a box out on the outside and you don't get into any complex structural changes to the roof. It's just a shame because it's such a nice house, and then it seems like that boxed out eave seems out of place.
It was there before us. So,
No, I know, but now you're extending it.
mean, I can try to zoom in on the picture and the actual photograph and see what it's, what I can see. But I don't see rafter tails at all.
Yeah, I know. In the picture, it looks like maybe it's dark
Yeah.
paint, but maybe it had some
There
kind
aren't
of
many,
trim or
we
molding.
couldn't
or
find
something.
many reference plans or.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Anything else?
Oh, and a similar comment to the last project, I feel like the window mounting configuration needs to be looked at somewhere.
Well,
You have that combination.
It
of-
will change with the casements.
So what happened was, as I was writing the staff report, I got an email from the window company saying, "Hey, we just submitted our window permit for the rest of the house."
Unbeknownst to us.
Yeah, so there is a window permit in place or being applied for casements throughout the house that match the original. So we asked that they just sort of coordinate between that set and what's happening here so that, they go together. So
We will do that.
So the conditions by staff would cover that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions by the board to the staff or the architect? All right, thank you so much. Open it to public comment. Does anybody in the public wish to speak in favor or opposition to this case? Anybody on Zoom? Hearing none, public comment is closed. Bringing it back to the board. Any further discussion?
I'm going to sense that
Mr. Baños.
I think I might be in the minority on this, but part of what I have an issue with is, and there isn't much that maybe they can do with my thought process, but what they've done over time is that they have sort of make the house boxier. So, and I think it's a real shame that the open the terrace that they have on the top that was enclosed. And I believe this addition, what it's doing is perpetuating the same damage that it was to the house before. Okay, so in my view, it really detracts from it that we are expanding the cutout, okay, that comes from the back, that we're making it longer, because it does, the fact that it cuts a little further in does actually make the house look distinctive. And I just hate the addition to the side on top of the house, because I think it detracts completely from the front. So, I mean, I can't, I don't see it. I think it takes away from the house, and it perpetuates the same issues that they had in the past on making it more, boxing it in. It completely changes the design and the historic nature of it.
Thank you, Mr. Baños. Any additional discussion? I'll make a comment on the west elevation. I think I understand your comment, but I think the architect handled it pretty well. So I understand, but I think they did a fine job. I'm a little surprised at the 25, whatever the zoning thing was.
I don't even understand that,
but that's not what's here before us
Exactly.
today. So we're just going to go with what we have.
I can give you the short version if you want to know.
don't want it.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion on the item? Anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll be happy to.
Mr. Maxwell, what is your motion?
I'd like to make a motion motion to approve with the conditions stated in the report by staff, numbers 1 through 7, on the design proposal for the addition alterations to the residence of 1407 Ferdinand Street.
And the SCOA.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Okay. And approve the issuance of a special certificate of appropriateness for the design.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. You have a motion, any second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Rolando. Any further discussion? Motion and a second, let's call the roll.
Ms. Alvarez?
No.
Mr. Manos?
No.
Okay. Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Ms. Spain?
Yes.
Ms. Rolando?
Yes.
Mr. Maxwell?
Yes.
Mr. Garcia Pons?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Congratulations.
No, 5-2.
5-2, sorry. I have 2 here and I said 0. 5-2. Thank you so much. That concludes the agenda of the items. We now move to old business. Is there any old business the board wishes to address? I do have one item of new business. Actually, let me go. Ms. Pernas, is there any commission items you wish to share with us?
Yeah, so wait, let me go back, because where do you want us?
Wherever you want to start.
I was like, wait. So we have the discussion item for the City Hall repairs and assessment, but I could do the City Commission update just to mention to you all that there was a discussion item last meeting about doing a centennial project to highlight the properties that are also celebrating their centennial, the year of the city, and creating some sort of special plaque or medallion or something that will be added to those designated homes. So we're working with the communications department and Martha Pantine's team to figure out how it will work and what it'll be. So more to come on that.
Thank you.
And then the other city commission item is just there has been discussions obviously about City Hall, which comes into our discussion item about funding the future restoration project and then the immediate repairs that are being done, which was circulated to you all in advance of the meeting. Some of you did the walkthrough with me today individually, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I was hoping the ACM could make it today, but I did provide you all the link that he gave the update on. We have a meeting tomorrow actually with the manager's office to go over some of the updates received from the engineer and how those will be addressed. But of the items in the immediate action list, some of these have already been taken care of. All the wire mesh has been installed where it needed to be installed. And anywhere that there would needed to be built shoring, it takes a little longer because there needs to be plans that are associated to that. So, any
questions for staff regarding the discussion item? Great. Anything else, Ms. Pernas?
Well, new business, I suppose, since you brought it up yesterday.
Right.
You can't have a bigger smile on your face,
So new
Mr. Chair.
It's been a year since I've been the chair. We've been asked to, the position is open is an annual vote. I am going to remove myself from consideration for chair for the upcoming year. So we're going to take a couple of votes, one for chair and one for vice chair, and we'll do it slowly. So we're going to, does anybody wish to make a recommendation of chair? Does anybody wish to put themselves forward for the position of chair?
I would like to recommend Mr. Maxwell as the chair.
So there is a request for Mr. Maxwell to be chair. Does Mr. Maxwell accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay, that's one. Does anybody else wish to be nominated or nominate anybody else as chairperson? You can ask Mr. Maxwell again. Do you want to accept the nomination? Okay, so we have a nomination for chair, Mr. Maxwell. Do we need motions and seconds, or we take votes?
We can take a voice vote. I hear a nomination for Mr. Maxwell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Rolando.
All in favor?
Aye. Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, Mr. Maxwell is the new chair of the Historic Preservation Board. Can I do the vice chair? Okay, so now we have an opening for vice chair since Mr. Maxwell is the chair. Is there any nomination? Does anybody wish to nominate themselves for the position of vice chair?
I would like to nominate Ms. Rolando, actually.
Mr. Baños?
I respectfully decline and would suggest instead Mr. Silva.
Okay.
I would like to second the nomination of Mr. De Silva if he would be kind enough to accept.
So we have a motion by Ms. Rolando and a second by Mr. Maxwell for Mr. Silva. Is Mr.
Too
Silva,
excited, everybody.
would you be in? Okay, Mr. Silva would accept it. We have a motion and a second for Mr. Silva. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For vice chair, any opposed? None. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, that is the last item. Let's adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Garcia Pons. We really appreciate your service as chair.
Thank you, Ms. Rolando. You know, no one is trying to be sexist up here. We'd really like to have a balance.
Oh, yeah, what's with the